Maxim again on the show. Right now, he's head of tech at PV Farm, and one of the thing I really liked interviewing Maxim last time was the technological innovation he was doing, and I thought after that time we saw the rise of Gen AI wave, everything, rise of LLM. So I want to know now his perspective on like, okay, how are things changed in the computer vision world for AEC and right everything. So quite excited for this. Thanks for being on the show, Maxim.
Thank you for inviting. Pleasure to be here, man.
All right. First of all, can you talk a bit about your current role, how a day in your life looks like?
Okay. So yeah, since the our last conversation, I was CTO at Creo Software Limited. So at some point, we decided we had three products. One of was quantity takeoff software, which is called Creo now. Then we had Schema, and we started building PV Farm, which is a solar design automation software. So at some point, we basically decided to separate company in three different companies. So we
Oh,
found funding for Schema, so and basically spun it off, and then we did the same for PV Farm, spun it off. So I'm still participating in Creo's activities, more like a consultant and helping team. I know the team really well. It's amazing people, and I'm still helping a little bit, but mostly right now I'm focused on my company, which is a Sunbeam, and my our main product, which is a PV farm, basically. And we build it together with partner from the United States. And I find it actually it's much better to work with, I would say, industry leaders rather than VCs. So it's a
mm,
great partnership because they bring a lot of expertise, and they help us to explore the problem space. And so yeah, now I have a bunch of side projects, like a small ones, but my main focus is on PV Farm at the moment. Yeah, so it's yeah, that's what changed in my day. My day, look, man, to be honest with you, I'm like, yesterday I had 13 calls back to back. So it's just basically demo, trials, selling, doing some marketing, webinars. Yeah, I'm not even involved now much in the technology, to be honest with you.
oh, interesting. So it's more kind of like a product manager, or you're.
I wouldn't even say, yeah, I would say right now it's like whatever is needed, right? So a little bit product management, a lot of sales, a lot of adoption, a lot of growth type of stuff, analyzing what's going on, how do we want to sell it. But I enjoy the most actually working with clients on their problems, because I would say I have an engineering background, so I was a structural engineer myself, and now working with folks that actually design solar farms and like finding the best ways to solve their problems. That's the most exciting part of it. Yeah. So
Amazing. Yeah. So I really want to know your opinion on this. So I'm also structural engineer turned
yeah.
techie turned entrepreneur. Over time, like initially, I was super excited by the difficulty in engineering innovation or challenges,
Yep.
but after doing startup, I realized knowing what to build, which people pay, and finding customers is relatively more difficult than using software to solve a problem and automate. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I would say there are basically two directions. The first direction, when you have an amazing technology and you try to apply this technology to the problem space, it's like what's happening with Gen AI at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, clearly it's a it's an amazing time, right? So the technology is there. It's I mean, it changed already our lives. I cannot imagine right now my life without ChatGPT, for example, right? So I'm using it like all the time. So it changed a lot, and at the same time, so one perspective might be, okay, so we have a great technology. Let's see where it can apply, and let's try to apply it in the best possible way. That's first approach, and then there is a second approach. We have a problems, like we have a real problems when people design, for example, solar farms, right? Like multiple disciplines, how people work together, feedback loops, optimizations, and all this stuff. And it's a completely different approach. It's like problem specific, right? So I would say technology first or problem first. So I would say I'm actually closer to the problem first approach. I wouldn't say entirely that I would be there, but because I'm like in my team, I have an amazing technical leads, and sometimes they just, they don't care about customers at all. They just go build something, and then I'm trying to figure out how to actually use this.
Yeah, right.
So I would say I'm trying to balance those two approaches, but if I would define myself, I would put myself closer to the problem space. That's
Mm.
so in that sense, I might be not as exciting guest in terms of your podcast, because you probably will want to hear a lot about technology and stuff. But I mean, it is what it is.
No, no. I actually then we can double down on the problem space. And so, since like you're also structural engineer, this from my experience, I've seen a
Mhm.
lot of product saturation in terms of AI, Gen AI in design, visualization space, some construction copilot. Haven't
Mhm.
seen like some great products for structural engineering, AI copilot, or like agentic workflows for design tasks. Like
The-
maybe, yeah, okay.
yeah, it's just not made for it. Look, you let's talk about, okay, structural engineering. You need precision, you need accuracy, you need I would say deterministic stuff, right? So when you ask system to do something, with the same asks, you would expect the same
Mm,
replies.
yeah.
So that's the whole basement of trust for any engineer. As soon as you start getting different replies, you cannot trust this tool anymore. So
Mm,
that's, I think that's the whole differentiating between, I would say, let's say if we will put it down like design phase, like early design phase. This is the phase where ideation, creativity, prediction, pattern recognition makes sense. So that's where AI actually is booming, right? So when you need to come up with some ideas, but then as you move closer to more detailed design phase or engineering phase, that's not about it at all. So it's all about deterministic answers, precision, and accuracy. So you, by definition, you cannot use Gen AI there. So in my opinion, it's clear conceptually, but still people try, and I'm trying myself, but it's just it's really hard to find a spot for Gen AI in there. Yeah.
I, yeah, and like I want to double down on this idea of so here's
Mhm.
what so let's say beam design. It's very
Mhm.
deterministic. You have set of formulas,
Mhm.
and you can do like optimization on different rebar sizes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that's a junior structural engineer who
Yep.
does that detailed design. But there's also senior structural or manager of the project who sometimes before submission they have do like various thumb rule checks, ensure
Mhm.
that if the engineer was working overnight, they didn't
Yep.
do any mistake. And that's where I think there are some agentic workflows where you
Yes.
could like, okay, can you ensure check this check, and like some tool calling where functions are defined but do various iterative checks or something.
Yeah. I would say there are definitely some layers. Like you said, right? Let's say you need to analyze model, and let's say you don't want to do database queries, and for some reason you don't have time for it, or you don't know how to do that.
Mm.
And in that sense, let's say if you will make your LLM talking to a BIM model, amazing, right? But at the end of the day, also, let's say if you're an engineer and you have dashboard with all the information, uh, why the fuck you need a chatbot?
Yeah,
Right,
that's true.
that's what I don't understand, because it seems like right now everybody wants to build a chatbot, even like
Mm,
folks that have a nice dashboards and nice information. You can filter things out and you can do like lots of stuff, and then oh yeah, let's integrate a chatbot, and it feels
mm.
like the whole world is trying to integrate a chatbot, and I just don't understand why.
Okay, okay. Then what are the other interfaces? Like basically, we want to let's say do smart workflows
Yeah.
automation for design.
Okay, let me
Right?
give you an example. So the
Yeah.
example I'm having in mind, for example, again, what I will take my PV Farm product as an example, or I can talk for Creo tool as well. So for the PV Farm product, for example, we have like lots of inputs, like hundreds
Mm,
of inputs. So you basically need to populate this data when you start, and that's not how this data is being stored. Let's say if you are an EPC contractor and you have a RFP, request for proposal. So it's basically like it might be like hundreds of documents. And so you have on one end a messy data in terms of documents. They are not structured. and they are, they might be different from case to case, and it might be tables, it might be PDFs, whatever, right? So this is the perfect space where it's a messy and
Mm,
unpredictable, and this is in my opinion, this is a perfect case for LLMs, for example, to jump in and to start kind of converting those unstructured data inputs into meaningful inputs. And that's a perfect, in my opinion, that's the perfect application of large language models. Again, this is just a layer, right? At the end of the day, you as an engineer still will need to do your engineering stuff, but this particular layer might be improved a lot. Or like some search as well, like let's say if you have a, imagine you have a kind of beam model of solar farm, which with like millions of objects and like tens of millions of rows of information. So when you work with data in the web, you even need to build a specific mechanism that will allow you to upload this efficiently,
mm,
because you cannot actually dump it all to the user. So this is also another perfect space where you can actually use some Gen AI, to start to do like queries. But again, you will use a human language to convert it into some structured query to get the data. But the fact that, it's gonna glitch,
mm,
it's gonna give you false results. It's like you need to spend so much time refining. Like the building proof of concept of this is quick. You can just go use
yes.
OpenAI out of box, feed it data, create templates, start getting your answers. But then trying to fix those mistakes that will come eventually, it's like, I remember when you after the high school you prepare for the exams to the uni. It's like it's easy to get 50 out of 100, and then the closer you get to 100, you need to put more and more and more effort. And so in order to make LLM in such case to work well, you will need to do more fine tuning, fine tuning, fine tuning, fine tuning, and then it's going to be extremely hard. This is why we can see, like, right now in the AEC space, like lots of what I call laboratory works.
Mm,
It's just like proof of concept, but no one. It's like it's easy to show this first mile, but then going further, that's where the complexity will come from. And this is why it's a huge gap in between doing a nice demo and like posting GIF to LinkedIn and showing some cool stuff, and then how to actually make it work in a real production life. Yeah. So that's how I think it. You know.
and I'm perfectly aligned, and like I have experienced it myself. Like it's very easy like to create a 3D from text, because then it's like, oh, convert this command into bunch of geometry creation.
Yeah.
But then it's very difficult to edit, okay, move that second floor, because then scene graph access is not there. So to your point, like making adding geometry is easy, modifying and referring to particular instance is relate, and that's where you can make a POC in a weekend, but it would take 10x the efforts to make production, because then
Yeah, and then eventually on top of that, you will need to build a proper design model in Flow, and then you will ended up having like a necessity to build like a proper tool at the end of the day. And then there is a question: what is the core? Is it design tool or is it ideation tool? So what's gonna make customers to choose your tool, right? So it's like, again, I would say there are areas, like especially like if you're talking about building codes and stuff like that, or maybe some compliant regulations, where I would say I expect a huge impact of LLMs, and I especially like those dedicated LLMs trained specifically for certain industry needs. So that's where I can see a lot of hopefully projects coming up. But I didn't see many so far. I mean, I saw many like demos and POCs,
yeah.
but I didn't see many like real products. So that's why sometimes, like when you ask, I became so lazy that I even ask ChatGPT sometimes, like, okay, look, I have a area 20 acres, I wanna grade it 2 feet in depth. Can you give me the volume of dirt I need to excavate? And then you can see how ChatGPT explains it, calculates, and I'm like, Now I'm this idiot who actually, instead of doing simple math, ask this tool, and then the whole world built data centers so such idiots can ask such questions.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. So,
So
like, sorry, please
no, no,
go
go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
No, it feels like you're on the team of human in the loop in structural engineering versus fully AI agentic automation.
Yeah, I would say we most of our automation is pure math optimization, right? So we and it was pretty much everywhere. We use linear programming, we use integer programming, dynamic programming. We use multi-objective optimizations, constraint optimization, combinatorial optimization. So it's mostly about like a pure mathematical optimization. But then it's in certain places where it makes sense, we can start working with computer vision, deep learning, or generative AI. Um, and to be honest with you, we didn't explore much like diffusion models. Played a lot with LLMs. Tried to understand the Yeah, I try to understand how complicated it is to fine tune it, not like just simply prompt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, prompt engineering. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, not that simple because it's just that far that it can give you. Like it's not, yeah, it will not solve your problems. You eventually will be blocked. And the older I become, the more I understand that instead of like I used to be in the past like whatever idea I have, I'll just go all in. Like let's try to do this. But now I'm like, okay, let's think at least like two steps ahead. So if I okay, this is where prompt engineering will actually bring me, and then eventually I will need to start fine tuning. So
yeah.
to do fine tuning, this is the cost, this is the team I need, this is what I need, and then you do just a simple calculations, and you're like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. So that's how I would say 9 ideas out of 10 being killed in my mind. Yeah, at the moment. So I'm like, I'm afraid I'm becoming this grumpy, grandpa, and I'm like,
Skeptical about
very skeptical. Yeah, not I'm still not as skeptical as my engineers customers, but I'm very skeptical about certain things. But at the same time, I'm super excited about what's going on with Gen AI. I mean, I use, as I said, ChatGPT, and I use basically um, basically that like day on a daily basis, but it's mostly for marketing,
mm,
emails. Like sometimes when you want to do a nice pitch, you use ChatGPT as well. So you use it like it's a nice ideation phase. It's like sometimes you just want to talk, like like put your thoughts in there, try to structure them. That's amazing. That's a huge win. But I'm struggling to find a good adoption in the AEC.
mm,
For these tools, except like building chat for the sake of building chat, you know.
yeah,
Um, it's a bit, I would say it's a bit more interesting in a Creo tool, but you need to work with unstructured data. We need to work with um, image recognition, and that was a huge leap in that direction. So I would say even like expertise we built in Creo for like 2017 to 2022, at some point the just industry started to move so fast that we actually could just use solutions out of box, but for object detection or semantic segmentation. But at the end of the day, um, it's impressive how it's growing. It's really impressive. I would, and also in terms of like ideation, early design phase, and then later, let's say, engineering phase. For the AEC industry, I would rather start building solutions from that end, closer to
mm,
the value, closer to the construction site, closer to the where actually those buildings are made, if it's about buildings, right? And then I would do like a walk back and start. Like that's the flow that seems, because we tried in the past the flow from ideation to details, and it's really hard. So this is really hard. Like from details to ideation seems like counterintuitive, but it's easier. Yeah.
can you elaborate? Because
Yeah.
what changes?
It's just think about this way. again, I will use PV farm as a solar PV layouts. So you need to make solar PV layouts. So basically, if you think about this in a simple terms, it's just placing rectangles on the side. So you basically you do like a fitting algorithm, you place rectangles and then you cluster them in the smart way. So you cluster them into blocks and then within the blocks you cluster them in the combiner box circuits, like hierarchy basically. Uh, and it seems simple, but then when you start, talking to construction folks, you understand that there are some optimizations that might make sense on the design phase, which they would never accept. So there is no point in designing the most actually, I'll give you an example in terms of columns, structural columns, right? So if you can design the most efficient structural frame with the least possible concrete and the least possible reinforcement. And then you will have like like hundreds types of columns, right? But then folks on the construction side, it's going to be too expensive for them to build it because they will need to have a different formwork. They will need to be careful to not mess up with your drawings and all this stuff. So they will optimize it. Okay, let's do three sizes, and let's make reinforcement as simple as possible. And so every time you do this, you actually kind of make your model less efficient, but it's more buildable.
Mm,
So basically marrying those aspects, and then if you start from a construction world, you understand what's buildable, right? And you understand that, yeah, probably with unlimited money, you could build whatever you want. You could build pretty much whatever you want. You can build a solar farm on the piles like 10 meters high. But why would you do that, right? So because the end goal is to build the energy, right? To get energy, to start getting energy from the sun. And so if it's the end goal, so you want to start selling this energy, and if you want to start selling this energy, you will start evaluating how much money you can get from selling energy versus how much money you need to spend to build that. So I actually like this, I would say, uh, top top kind of bird view on the things in terms of business, how it works. Even like when you build a simple tool for someone, you just like to understand what's the bigger picture and why people do this. And then it just more sense. And then when you have like detailed, let's say you build a bunch of algorithms that can make your layouts, and then you go towards design phase and ideation phase, and you know that people don't know too many details on that phase. And so then instead of using those details, you just basically change those details to placeholders, but they
mm,
are already there. So you ask people to operate by placeholders, and then because you started from details, it's easy for you to populate those. Let's think about Masim, right, with buildable elements, because you already have it. So that's why I feel like starting from what's real and then doing like step backs is actually more beneficial in terms of. And again, it's suitable only for my area of expertise, because like I'm mostly focused on built-in design automation. I call it built-in design configuration software products. Is basically when you essentially build something where you have lots of inputs and controls, and then you basically configure something real you can build at the end of the day. So again, my experience starting at basically downstream and moving upstream is just strategically more efficient way of building software products for that area. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, because even like constraining the details, then in the design exploration space, you're giving it a direction that this it's not like infinite design
Yeah.
options. And I'm just curious to know what are the trade-offs you're making, like for like for, from my
Yeah.
initial guess is the details are limited to particular geography or manufacturer. So how do you make a scalable product which is geography agnostic? Like what are the trade-offs you generally make?
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest with you, the biggest trade-off is um, and there are many trade-offs on the different layers, and I will start from the top one. For example, flexibility and configurability. It's hard to make it usable. So when you have a highly configurable system or highly flexible design system, it's really difficult to make it usable for most of the users. So that's the my this is my biggest pain at the moment, is that we build a tool which is going really well with adopters, with our first adopters. We're doing really well. Like we launched the product January this year, and we already have 350 users. We
Damn.
signed first 15 big contracts. We own close to 1.5 million ARR. So it's really like the most
What?
successful.
No
Yeah, this is
wonder
the
why
most
you don't
successful.
need
Yeah,
VC money.
I'm just saying that this is the most successful product I've launched in the last 10 years. So it's going really well, but still, those people mostly are our bros. They are our early adopters who loves complexity, who loves like talking to us, and we it's kind of like a mutually beneficial relations, because we also learn from the market, and also we find those like-minded people in the market, and they use our tool. But then when you want to make this leap towards like scale, right? You want to make the sleep, you want to make your platform being usable and easy to learn, easy to use. Like this is where it's challenging, because you need to forget about those too many details. You need to invent some smart defaults. You need to start like stepping away from this, and it's hard to actually make a usable tool and save all those flexibility you build. So that's the trade-off, but it's more like a high level business trade-off, right? But at the same time, in terms of like when we build an algorithm, our major problem is that we need to build a tool where people can navigate those models in a browser, and some of those models, they're huge, like 1 gigawatt solar farm, they are like huge. So we build this engine that can handle solar farms specifically. And as you know, it's like it's actually easy to build engine for like one specific type of project. It's really hard to build an engine where you can like Rhina, right? If you will grab Rhina, you can do jewelry, buildings, cars. So this is extremely difficult. Or like in Revit, you can do whatever, you can do a lot of stuff. But then when you have this option to go one niche, like solar PV, you can really build a very efficient engine. And so and then you want to have this interactiveness with users. So you want them to be comfortable navigating through model. You don't want to have any lags and any problems, right? So the time of and then you have a lot of fancy algorithms that take like minutes to run. And so how to basically you want it to be runtime, right? But at the same time, you want it to have some in-depth considerations. And so when it's about in-depth considerations, you need to build fancy algorithms, and sometimes you need to wait 5 minutes to get results. And then basically how to make models still interactive while people waiting for results. This is why for
Mm.
example, all our solvers, the most heavy solvers, they are obviously we run them in parallel on our servers, and then but we don't lock the model, so users can work in the model. They can see that something is spinning, and they can still explore the model, colorize it, like make nice filters and all this stuff. But at the same time, their results, as they come, they will be loaded in time, and you will be noticed. So like solving those challenges is actually, but it's, you see, like I'm talking about some kind of old school stuff, right? So it's like it's so easy, but at the same time, building this in a meaningful way is really tough. Like we spent already 3 years building this product, and there are so much to build still on top of that. So basically, runtime versus, because again, you know the for example, what I like about test fit product, right? Because it's very interactive. So when you run it stuff, it's like like basically 2D blocks, and they just run quickly. But at the same time, imagine you want to grab a test fit and put more meaningful stuff, like more considerations, like when you generate something, or like more details. So then you cannot afford being that interactive. But also you don't want to lose that interactiveness because it's amazing. So that's kind of trade-offs you have as well. So I would call this trade-off is basically runtime versus meaningful optimization, because you want to have
Mm.
runtime, and at the same time you want to have meaningful optimization. And then in that sense, when we build, for example, PV farm, again, I'm less talking about Gen AI, but more about, like software development. So we build it in a way that we basically combined client side and server side. So when you explore the model, it's happening on the client side with your GPU. So we use your GPU.
Mm, yeah.
So this is why it's fast. So we have some requirements to your laptops. They need to be fresh, right? But then it's super fast. But at the same time, when we need to run some sophisticated calculations, we do it on our servers. And basically, by mixing those two components, it allows you to get the best out of two different architectures, right? So, and that's why in our software, for example, let's say you just got disconnected from the internet, and everything is loaded in your browser. You can still download a local dump from the web application to your machine,
Mm,
send it to us, we will restore your project, for example. So that's the beauty when you build, when you build something knowing that, you want to have collaboration, you want to have people working together, you want to have unlimited version control by design, you want to have like interactivity and all this stuff. So if you build an architecture knowing those aspects, it's going to be hard, but at the end of the day you will have lots of benefits of it. So that's basically it. This is why I enjoy this process, because it's like, it's engineering.
dude,
Yeah.
like I I can imagine, because this a quite exciting problem of like I'm also, when you're saying client side GPU, I'm comparing how like Canva or Figma use like WebGL and do a
Yeah.
lot of client side compute. So apart from technical challenges, like the software engineering challenges are also like, okay, how do you marry the best of both worlds? And
Yep.
as you were saying, it's like for this kind of complexity, how a simple Apple-like interface where
Yeah.
the joy and delight is still there while giving complex results. It's
Yeah.
tough. A lot of
Yeah.
A/B
It's
testing, I guess.
not as I would prefer to have. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this is a challenging part. This is definitely a challenging part. Yeah. So that's the kind of trade-offs we have, and also like trade-offs when like like sometimes people on a high level, they just want to have like a global optimization, like global optimization in terms of like give me the most meaningful layout with the cheapest dollar per watt cost. And then, if you think about this from a mathematical standpoint, cheapest dollar per watt is like when you have nothing on your side. Cost is zero,
Yeah.
right? but, but then you start adding constraints, and basically most of the people, they want like a global optimization. At least I don't think they want it, but they say that they want it. But then it's just not feasible in terms of like time. So we did some experiments where we actually knowing everything we know and having like the whole pipeline of our algorithms. So like our PV farm is about like, I think it's more than 200 different algorithms, 200. So, and each one of those has like 30, 40 versions. So it's like, like it's a lot. And basically, if you start like building some kind of orchestrator that will try to find a solution based on your client request. So sometimes if to run this, and we tested it, it might take 20 hours.
Whoa.
And people say that they are happy to wait 20 hours, but they are lying. They're not happy. No one is happy to wait 20 hours. So this is why you actually take this global optimization, break it into local optimizations, and build a pipeline where you actually, and at each point you give users a control, like design. So you do the first step, you have an option to move things, to change stuff. You do the second step. So it's like it gives you this kind of evolution, iteration. It gives you the, I think all engineers and all basically designers, they actually build their story in the first place. And this is why yeah, and that's why it's important to actually to break it down, the global optimization problem, into like dozens of local optimizations, and then give a tool where you can actually run in any
Mm,
order. So that's challenging as well. And especially like imagine you have a what's challenging is like feedback loops. So solar PV for, and it's pretty much about the whole industry, but solar PV specifically is about when you have layout modeling folks, then civil folks, then electrical folks, and they work usually in some order. So layout folks start, then they like ask civil folks to give me feedback, and civil folks come and say, "Look, this is expensive. Please get rid of this part." And then they get rid, they change it, then they go to electrical team. Electrical team gives feedback. So those feedback loops are extremely difficult, and this is why kind of layout takes like weeks to build, to
Mm,
design, right? And so what we wanted to build is that basically, so you have this feedback loop like almost runtime. So you can test it, you get an answer. This might be not a perfect answer, but this answer will give you a some indicator and some direction for your decision. And basically, it's also important to understand where you want to stop, because like you don't want it to be too complicated, but also you don't want it to be meaningless. You don't want it to be like kind of useless information. So finding those perfectly balanced spots to actually build it, and you also want it mathematically feasible. You don't want people to wait
mm,
15 minutes. So it's like this is what's impressive about technology, and when you combine it with business and customer, and you solve, I would say, what I really, you asked me what I'm doing right on my daily basis, but I would actually say that at the moment, what I love doing is actually understanding those business challenges, customers challenges, and technology limitations. And when you try to marry those things, that's where it gets complicated, but it gets extremely interesting. Yeah. So basically, this is, I would call this aspect in terms of engineers like multidisciplinary nature, right? And
mm.
those feedback loops. This is tough part. So, but yeah, and obviously not every AC software solves for that. Not every needs to solve for that, but when you need, so it's tough. Yeah. How's your 3D guru is going on?
It's going great. Like we have clients, and right
Okay.
now so it's Bootstrap. So we
Okay.
are doing like consultancy, which gets the cash flow to run the product on the side. So marrying
Smart.
best of both worlds to keep it running, because I know it's a long
That's
game to
that's
make. Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty good decision. So how big is the team?
So right now it was like me and my co-founder,
Nice.
and uh, that's one of the reasons. So like I use Cloud GPT all day, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
pivotal point where okay, initially we wanted to build a big team, fundraise, but then we realized we can build a lot of things ourselves, and that was one of the reason we
Mm-hmm.
thought okay, uh, let's just push. It was just for financial stability and growth, fast growth. uh, it was good to have the VC money, but uh, another like a trade-off we made. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand. You are indie hacker. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like I would like to call myself that. But
that's good.
from your story and the way you were thinking about business, customer, and tech, uh, I got like a feeling that building that muscle of thinking in that way is comes with time, and you build multiple products. And if you can share what are the things you learned the hard way, what are the things you do differently now about building products compared to
Mm-hmm.
your past
Mm-hmm.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the biggest mistakes we made in the past is that we tried to build products without knowing markets. So that was like, look, this is at some point I remember when we were building our first product, which is called Creo Design. It was a competitor to TestFit, to Archistar, to some other products. Basically, that was that moment when Spacemaker was built, like
Mm,
2017, 18, 19. So, and I think we did the mistake. Um, I think we had quite an amazing technology back then, really amazing technology, but we just lost simply because we didn't know market well, and we didn't have enough. I would say we didn't have enough cash to pursue our vision. So
mm,
understanding like, okay, understanding how complicated it is. You know, as an entrepreneur, right, you need to believe in things, and you need to be very optimistic about stuff, but and it's this is where you will get your fuel, right? This is where you will get your fuel. This is what will differentiate you in the future. You need to be that person, but also it's important to um, that's what my wife helps me to do, be grounded a little bit. Like and like when people try to compete with Revit, and then they write those like huge pitches about we're gonna fucking kill Revit and all this stuff. I'm like, do you understand how much money and time you need to kill Revit? Like, do you understand that you need like hundreds of millions, huge team? Like, think about this just for a second. You cannot kill Revit in 2 weeks doing like fucking laboratory project, right? So like important to basically to squeeze this gap as much as possible. Also, like I would say, this is the it's important to understand this, and it's important to be honest with your investors. It's important to be honest, even if it doesn't matter whether it's a VC, private equity, or whether it's an industry partner, right? You need to communicate it properly. And I think in the past, I personally did a lot of mistakes where I was like, like I was too excited. I was too excited about building stuff.
Ambitious.
Yeah, and I'm like, so and then people that know market, people that have connections, people that do consultancy work, they win. In my opinion, actually starting a product from consultancy work is the best possible way. It's not easy. It's not easy, and sometimes it's extremely difficult. Like you cannot go and work as a civil engineer in the United States, right? So it's extremely difficult, but sometimes this is the best way. If you find the niche and you start doing consulting, and then you start using your tool to do consulting, and then you start teaching people how to do the same stuff with your tool, that's, I think, in my opinion, this is the best approach. And like again, that's why for example, I think so basically first, being a bit realistic. I'm not saying forget about your dreams and all this stuff. You should have it, you should have this fuel, but you also need to understand, okay, this is going to be complicated. This is understanding the risks. This is understanding like whether it's like feasibility risk, whether it's a business risk, like what risk do you have. So this would help a lot. And also, like most of the things, to be honest with you, when you and like how to be realistic and keep the dream, right? It's actually quite easy. Most of the answers you can get today if you just simply imagine you want to build a data centers configurator today. So, and then you can start and you have a limited knowledge. So, I mean, you can actually go to Google Maps, parse all the data centers in the world, see their sites, and do this kind of research project for a couple of days. It will give you so many insights. Then you go and post it into LinkedIn. This post will attract people who actually do design data centers. You start talking to those people, you start testing your ideas, and then you will see what works, what doesn't. Being able to talk to people and understand what they really mean, because what people say, what people feel, what people really think is different things, right? So understanding how to talk to people and understanding where is real problem, where is nice to have. For example, with our Creo modular product back 2020, 2021, we just we people were telling us, it's like everybody was telling us it's a nice to have, but this never was a core business to anyone. This was not
Mm,
important to people, and like we've been told, but we just decided to not listen to people. So it's like the same with when we built like our beam takeoff tool, and back then like we built an extremely like amazing Creo plan product, which did scheduling back then based on your beam model back like 6 years ago. And and like and for probably 1.5 years we were trying to sell it, and everybody was telling us, hey guys, can you add this like things where we can upload PDF and measure it? And like everybody was saying this, and we just, because we were so like like so energized with our vision, so excited about it, we just like we decided to not listen to people.
mm,
So, and that was difficult. But obviously, if you baked, if you have enough money, it's also important to understand what part of what you build today is innovation versus what is like current, let's say, do you create a new value chain, or like do you build something competitive? Like, so let's say when you build a product and it has like 20 competitors in the market, that's a great insight. So it's amazing. That means that you will have market, right? But and like when you build something, I like to think about this in that way. So first of all, you build something for kind of core customers needs today, and then you have a lot of innovation which you will use as a cherry on cake, so people will choose your product, right? So the ratio in between kind of core stuff and innovation should be managed in accordance with how much money you actually have. Because if you have a lot of money, you can actually be much bolder in terms of innovation, right? But then if you don't have that much money, you need to be you need to find like a multiple steps. Like you will need, okay, so first of all, like you said, right? So we're doing consultancy and we want to like um, put ourselves on this first like step. So then we will probably go, maybe when we'll start getting more money, we'll go crazy this direction. We will invest more
Yes.
money in this research. And then we'll continue doing our core business because we will need to survive. So that's, I think this concept understanding also came to me like not from the beginning. I
And
would say all my lessons I learned hard way. But luckily for me, there always was a great people around. Our investor and CEO of Creo Magomed was like, that's the guy who made me helped me learn all of that, and I'm very thankful. So he was like, we were playing with a lot of shit, and he was like, yeah, let's play with a lot of shit. And then at some point he said, hey guys, it's time to sell it. And so well, this is where the paradise ended up. So we needed to sell the shit we built. So that, I mean, again, having a good people, like being able to listen what people say, being able to understand where the market is, where it's going, being able to understand this gap with what you promise versus what you can deliver, communicating clearly, and like um, that's the things. They're also obvious, right? So you can open any book, you can read about those things, but when you experience those, they kind of like embedded, and then it makes more sense. But yeah, there is nothing really fancy, but it's just more like experience stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's similar. You can read a lot of book about startup, but once you won't
Yeah.
do it, you won't realize the real pain. What is actual lean versus theoretical lean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything. But I really liked the point you made where being ambitious but also being realistic, because I'll share with an example, like even like
Hmm.
with the 100 million rabbit, like having that mindset, okay, then you're not playing a 5 year exit game, you're playing a 10 year, and going on having the patience and good at
Hmm.
constant fundraising. And even for my context, so the first version I built was text to 3D modeling engine,
Yeah.
and I know the prototype took like 3 months to launch, but for all the minimum feature sets required by designers, from extrusion to cutting, it's a 2 year. And and there were a lot of Figma for BIM kind of products in the market, and it was
Yeah.
getting such. So do I have to fight this market where it will take 2 years to build good enough all the
Hmm.
feature set, and there's a high possibility of losing versus, and also for the pivot, then Bootstrap. I
Yeah.
know it's highly likely to win B2B route rather than B2C route for
Yes.
bootstrapping. So like things now when I develop a product, I always have, is it top five ENR firms or mid-size ENR firms, and the tail end, and like distribution first, or having some maturity in like, okay, is this am I playing $100 subscription game or $1,000 or ten
Yeah.
thousand?
Yeah.
So things like that now I think much
Yeah,
more.
but that's the thing. That's exactly what needs to happen. You need to be reasonable, and you need to have at least an open conversation with yourself,
Mm.
right? If you understand that your idea have weaknesses, it's up to you how you will decide to present those weaknesses, right? But at least if you have a honest conversation with yourself, it's just gonna be easier for you. Because again, I'm saying, like, back then I was so blind. I was like, we're gonna we're gonna build the best tool, we're gonna like blah blah blah, and I just didn't didn't read any signals, didn't hear any thoughts. Like it was so blind. It was just like that's important because some people just choose to be blind to certain things. I'm not saying that like you don't need to be bold or whatever. You need to be bold. You need to be. It's a business, fucking hell. You need to be bold for sure, right? So, but at least like having those conversations internally is important, and it also depends on what your life situation, right? For example, the most challenging period in my probably professional life was 2021. Yeah, when we needed to shut down the whole our R&D office in Belarus, and we needed to move people out of country. So that was a tough period. So that was a really tough period. And then the considerations were completely different than if I were living in a different place. But again, being honest with yourself, being open-minded about what's going on in the market. I think it's also for some people it's hard to to learn stuff, because if you're learning, you're actually not afraid to be dumb. You can ask dumb questions. You can talk to people. You can like yeah. This is also took me some time to understand. Yeah.
Yeah. But that also raises a thought in me, like uh we hear stories of people being bold and being very tough and not listening to market and making disruptive products, and we also hear stories where, okay, some people say customers don't know the possibility of future, so you should just give them the best, and then they'll like get addicted. And then after a time you're like, oh, we should have listened to customers because they were asking for this highly demand. So y- looking back,
Yeah.
sometimes you can justify both approaches.
Yeah. Look. First of all, yeah, look, man. This is a philosophical question, right? So it's like a dilemma. Like I know that some people like to quote the Henry Ford. If I
Yeah,
ask people what they want, they would ask for faster horses, right? So
yeah.
something like that. And sometimes your customers don't understand what you're building. Yeah, it's fine, but I'm just saying that it's also might be the case. It depends if you link those things like business, customer, technology, amount of money you have, like how you can deliver and all this stuff, you will know what to choose, right? Maybe you can choose a strategy to actually go for a disruptive product. That's a strategy. But when you do this choice, you need to understand that you're making this choice. So
Mm,
it's actually the key fucking difference is that when you decided to go all in, to go crazy, to go like you know, you know, live or die, whatever, like completely all in. If you understanding that you making this decision because you did those considerations and you chosen this consciously, that makes sense. That sometimes people just do it based on inertia or based on because they read in the books that it's cool to be bold or whatever. So that's not conscious choice. It's a bullshit, right? So i'm, I'm like I probably spent way too much time talking to my therapist in the last year, but that's my conclusion. As long as you're good with your decision and you had internal like a conversation and considerations and you decided, okay, that's my strategy, I'm good with this. So then it's your strategy. Who can say,
mm,
you can say that, sorry guys, that's my strategy. I'm sorry that I seem very bold for you, but that's my strategy.
mm.
So you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also
So
like your thinking as well as the cultural or the place you are. Like when I was in Silicon Valley, it was very obvious if I were to run a business or tech,
yeah.
fundraising is like okay right before because everyone is doing. And then when I started to look back, not every tech business should be fundraise, and like why not bootstrapping, why not indie
Yeah.
approach. Like so it's sometimes taking, going out of that circle and doing reflection.
To be honest with you, bootstrapping is an amazing. To be honest with you, I would bootstrap myself some things because I love this because it's important for me to have ownership, and it's important. It's an amazing. The only thing is that you are limited in terms how you can get there. So
Mm,
you will need to do small baby steps. And for some, imagine you like what with PV Farm, we wanted to build like a beam for solar PV, like fancy, intelligent beam for solar PV, and we wouldn't make it without our partner. So our partner, they brought expertise, they brought money, and and they understood the challenges and they were patient, and so it wouldn't be possible without them. So some products you cannot you cannot do it this way, but at least for some I would say this is the best approach. I think what you're doing is great, and I mean, as long as you talk through those steps you need to go to be where you want to be. But do you understand where you want to be?
I have some clarity, and I'm more of like I love building automation AC tech solutions,
Okay.
and I'm also testing like we have suits of products, and rather than
Hmm.
making 6 months bet for a product validation, I'm doing more micro SaaS approach. Like let's get out. I know, like I follow a lot of indie entrepreneurs, and the common pattern is it's not their first or it's always their sixth or tenth. So like
Yeah,
okay, let me get to and make all the revisions, do all the efforts, and but just keep validating and keep building. So that's the
that's
mindset I have.
that's really cool. And you live in the different places?
Yeah, so I was digital nomading for a year. Now I'm based in
Back
India,
to
so so
okay.
it's fun.
Nice. That's really
Uh,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, maybe on a separate chat. But Maxim, I know it's almost an
Okay.
hour mark.
Yeah.
I wanted to also, for structural engineers who are listening to this and who want to build products, uh,
Hmm.
and since you are in this space right now, you're pretty much occupied with PV farm. What are some ideas which you had in mind but didn't pursue, or some opportunities you see for automations for people to build? So like idea tinkering. Yeah.
Hmm. Automations. To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of vertically integrated solutions, and this is frankly speaking why I love solar PV. It's quite vertically integrated space because you have APC contractors. They do everything like design, build, and all this stuff. So, and why is this cool? Because you can actually automate, and your automation can be really close to the real value. I'm not speaking about fancy design automation. I'm speaking about something real close to the construction site. I like being close to the where work is done, right? So if you're talking about, and so this is why I would say there are lots of different building types, right? Like right now, data centers booming, good
Mm,
opportunity for automation. There are also many things that are considered like a long tail, like for example, gas stations, McDonald's, right? So I would go and automate all those types of buildings. So, but again, the question is how you do that. But again, m- my ideas would be basically to start exploring some different types and start to see whether it's there is an option to actually bring value there. So I like it, but in terms of like ideas for automation, there are like millions of them in any space, like that. But I like doing built-in design automation. That's the most exciting part for me. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I've been like people say riches are in the niches, and sometimes let's say PV signals that vertical slice works and there's a demand. If
Yeah.
you replicate the same model in other niches, but also uh, the hidden fact is then what's the distribution access, and do you have access to big partners as you had for PV farm, and
Yep.
so what are like unfair advantages also.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, as an entrepreneur who is planning to build, I think they should discuss. Um, any tips for machine learning engineers who are building in structural engineering or in AC in general? Of
Hmm.
like,
I would say, yeah.
mm,
For machine learning engineers, I don't know, understand problem, try to come up with more high level plan, not how to get to POC, how to get further, and exciting time. Enjoy your job. That's that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If there is any ML engineer and interested for work and want to be hired, just let me know. We're looking for some
damn.
good guys. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I meant to ask in terms of people complain about lack of data set in AEC. What
Mhm.
and you have built model in production. What were some like benchmarking techniques or version control, continuous training, like some hardcore insights about making
I,
it.
yeah, to be honest with you, you can build the data set wherever you want, right? So you can use GitHub for this, right? So it's doesn't really matter. So, but I think AC doesn't like data sets, but AC likes clean, nice data.
Yeah, yeah.
There's just so much noise, and like that's the problem. So how to make that's why like it seems like sometimes the easiest way to build a nice data set is basically build a product that makes designs and then basically grab those outputs and build your data set. But then it's going to be limited by your system capabilities. So I think the cleaning data, and also because the industry is very closed, I would say. I'm signing NDAs every day. So
Mm.
even like someone like who, yeah, it's just people share like shitty drawings and they want you to sign an NDA. And I'm like, what's you protecting here?
Thank God you said it. Like a lot of people say they don't want to share data they're building on IP. A lot of unstructured text in their hard drive, and they're not making use of anything. So like,
Yeah, yeah. So like, what's the point? So that's the thing. If we, I think this would help to this industry if it was a little bit more open in terms of like data sharing. Come on, most of the PDFs I see in my life has no know-hows whatsoever. It's just literally this will not harm you if you grab all your construction drawings and make them available for the world, there will be no harm whatsoever. So I just don't understand this, frankly speaking, but that's the problem. But again, the problem with data sets in AEC that is that you need to build them. You need to remove noise, you need to do a lot of labeling, like you need to basically build them from scratch. That's the biggest problem in my opinion. And but again, it's solvable problem, right?
yeah,
Like
someone
when
has
you
to put the hours and do the dirty work
yeah,
of
if
science. Yeah,
it's if let's say if your goal is clear and you know why you're doing this, and then it's more than solvable problem. Yeah.
nice.
So
Then why do you think we don't see a lot of cutting edge AI models coming out of from the industry? If it just because there are few firms, at least I know, are putting
mhm,
R&D efforts budget
mhm.
significantly, but still we don't see that.
I think it's just starting, to be honest
Oh,
with you. I think my opinion is that we will see a lot in the next 5 years. I think what's going on right now in built environment in general, it's pretty good. So um, I'm not I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't have any information about how much money channeling in AC and how much fund is there at the moment. But it seems like if you have idea, you can raise money. So that's how it seems to me. You can find money if you need money. So and it's just I think with this technology, and I see a lot of folks, including yourself, right? So you guys building this initial community, and it will definitely result into more data sets in the AC. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like I want to share one insight. So I was really surprised the amount of like even YOLO model with
Yep.
the smaller version, which are like in MBs, and I trained one just on construction detail and half an hour training and for the test set and random details it was able. So we have MBs in model which takes less than an hour and gets a really accurate output. And I just that's are the kind those are the kind of myths I want to clear out, that it's not too difficult if you have
Yeah.
like good. But I spent a lot of time on data set curation, but like that was the good part. Once I had good quality annotation and everything, it was relatively easier to
Yeah.
align.
And I think it's gonna get easier. Like it's gonna be much easier, and again, I think application is the problem as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, some data sets in AEC don't make any sense.
Yes.
So, like, when something makes sense, it makes sense, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. So that's also the problem. But I don't think we are. Yeah, I think we have everything needed. We have lots of data. I mean, as an industry, right? So this data can be cleaned up. So there are lots of tools like, even like if you go to you can do so much stuff. It's just, application. You need to find an application for this. You need to find a good use case, good business case, and then it starts from there, from business cases, not
Yeah.
from technology in that case, in my opinion. Yeah.
And that business intuition sometimes comes from experience and
Yeah, yeah,
domain knowledge. Like it's that's the non, like, that ChatGPT won't tell you. ChatGPT might tell you the
yeah.
POC and architecture for that. But
Yeah, this will not, yeah. Yeah. But I hope we will see better quality products in the future. It's really difficult to see a good quality, and I'm not saying that we have the best quality product. We want to have. We want to have. We go in there. We understand what it means to build a quality tool, high quality tool, right? So yeah, I think um, as people will start to understand more what it means, what does it mean? Like most of the people who even invest in building design tools, they actually don't know what design process is. And then yeah, that's there are plenty of problems, but I think it's also very exciting time. I don't know. I think it's a very exciting time, man. Yeah.
yeah, I have one last thing
Yeah.
before we end in. So I have, over time from experience. So I'm seeing this as a potential where there are sets of companies, for them client confidentiality has like very high,
Mm-hmm.
and for a third party software who wants to do, let's say, rag on their project documents, they would ask, but there those are also the companies who don't have in-house software development. So there's an opportunity where, like, one time download, like .exe file or like Windows or whatever Mac,
Mm-hmm.
and then rag using the local compute from their GPU, do everything by themselves. So, and same goes for diffusion, where let's say you have 100 or 500, why to pay 10 $30 license when you could just
Mm-hmm.
use your laptop So there is a business opportunity, this is my intuition, where one time license
Yeah.
using the compute and use all the AI, be it image based, diffusion based, LLM
Yeah,
based.
that's yeah. I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think this one makes sense. Yeah, that's very interesting one.
Yeah, so I'll keep you posted once I have those edge models and UI.
Yeah.
But then it would be a fun side project, and I'll do some validations and see how
Yeah,
it goes.
but man, come on, you can make this project over the weekend. So
Yeah, yeah, it's fun side project over the weekend and see.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
but that's what I see. There's an opportunity.
yeah. That's a good one. Hmm. Interesting. We what we built in PU Farm because people are very concerned about their files in general. They don't want to upload their files anywhere, right?
Mm,
So that's why in PU Farm, for example, we don't when you upload AutoCAD file, we don't actually take it to our servers. We read it on your machine, also get the data, and then basically save our proprietary data format to our servers.
mm,
So it helps because, like, especially when you work like with big construction companies, their IT departments. Um, they always ask about, are you SOC 2 compliant,
yeah.
all this stuff, and like, but this is those like kind of some of those methods we have, they help actually to pass those security checks, because, like, you don't want to be SOC 2 compliant on the first year. Like, it's just too early for that. So, but yeah, that there are some opportunities as well. And actually, also check it out in the construction industry as well. Like, more companies and more companies, they start hiring their own IT departments to build some internal stuff. I
Mm,
think that's a huge business opportunity. And I didn't hear many good successful stories out of those IT departments. And so I'm wondering why. So um,
yeah.
don't know, just to think about.
One last question. I haven't heard any good info about how much time and resources it takes for a startup or a tech product to become SOC 2 compliant. Any like,
Yeah, you just basically, I think there are certain. Basically, I would say if you decided to go this become SOC 2 compliant today, you would need some procedures to be in place for 6 months, and then you will
ooh,
need third party company to evaluate you. So I would say if you decided to do it today in like really 7 months, it's more than doable. Yeah, but it's still a lot of time, and it's super easy. It's like it's not really hard. It's more like it's just a kind of processes you need to follow, and you need like to have a formal policies in place, and then you need to have a proof that you have those policies for 6 months or whatever, and then third party company will evaluate it, and then they will just give you SOC 2. So I would
like,
say 7 months would be enough. It probably possible to get it earlier, but I'm not sure. I think it's around this time. Yeah.
and am I spending like five figures, 10,000, $20,000 or
Yeah, I
more?
think around, I would say even probably even 30K. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's a
So
good
this
enough
kind of
investment of time and yeah.
don't do this.
Yeah.
There was no a single case in my career when someone decided to not go with us because of SOC 2.
Ooh. Mm.
They usually say, "Do you have SOC 2?" And you're like, "No, we don't. But look, we're trying to be the best here, here, and here." You show an intention, and you explain that you are. It's not like we don't have SOC 2 and we will never have, and like we don't care. You care. You care about your application to be secure, and you care about customers' data. You care about all of this shit. As long as you communicate. Look, we didn't do this formal process, but internally we actually care a lot about your
Mm.
data, and here is what we do to make it secure. And usually if you are this honest and caring about their, that's it. No one will, it's not going to be, it's not going to be, at least I didn't have a case yet. Hopefully we'll never
Mm.
have, but next year will be SOC 2 compliant, so it doesn't matter. It will not
Yeah.
matter anymore. Yeah.
That's amazing, Maxim. Like these are the kind of insights. Like it's really great that you're sharing everything honestly, because but also it's good strategy that you're clarifying everything how you do the data, so their concern of data security or breach
Yeah,
is
I
addressed.
think
Yeah.
that's your interest. Like you care
Mm.
about customers all the time. You care about their data. You don't want to have any,
Yeah.
like any problems with that. It's just you didn't yet achieve SOC 2, and it's fine. It's just it's going to be time when you will do this, and it's totally fine. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
okay,
I think it's we are on the mark. It was so insightful hosting you again, Maxim.
thank you.
Like you shared some like bomb insights I didn't expect. So thanks a lot for being so candid and
Thank
honest.
thank you for invitation. Appreciate being here, man. You're doing a great stuff. Helping AEC to be a better place. I love it, man. Keep on going.